Happy Easter everyone, and we're here for the official V8 Supercar Championship Series brought to you by RaceSpotTV in conjunction with iRacing.com. We're here for round 2 action at Mid-Ohio. 40 laps here. It's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be a tough field. 24 cars here today, 23 cars, sorry, my mistake here today. I am Jake Blackwell. Joining me in the commentary box today is Johnny Simon. Welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks, Jake. Good to be here. First V8 broadcast for me, and after a very scintillating round 1 at Monza, we're sure to produce some great action around a very tight and twisty Mid-Ohio circuit. Lots of overtaking points as well, lots of undulation, so big challenge for the drivers this week. Let's see who's put enough practice and put in the hard work over the past 7 days.
Yeah, that's right. It's definitely a different track with this V8 Supercar, and at the moment we are in qualifying, and once again it's Josh Rogers on provisional pole, 1 minute 22.0, with Mitchell Sealak from ANZ in behind with a 22.3, is followed by his teammate Kane Kumia with a 22.5. The weather at the moment is 25 degrees, so the track temp is very cool. We got a southeasterly wind of 15k, so it'll be shaking the car around, and it's just going to be one of those tracks, Johnny, where it's just going to shake it up a bit, especially with this weather. It's going to make these tyres run the full distance as there's no stop needed tonight.
Yeah, not expecting many pit stops, or if at all, for most drivers. So 0 stop race expected. Maybe somebody might see if a 1 stop will work. Probably not. But I guess right now with the weather and how qualifying is taking place, it's about getting that clean banker lap. But you don't have many laps, do you, in qualifying, Jake? Only the 2-time laps available. And that's something new that's come over at iRacing recently.
Yeah, the 2 laps really shakes it up, and we've only just added an extra minute to the qualifying session now, so it gives the car drivers as well a little bit of time to sort of figure out where they're at and see sometimes get places. Actually, Josh Rogers just betters his time by about 0.04 of a second, so not much there, but he just puts that little bit of a icing on the cake there to show that he can do that lap consistently. And with this weather, if he can do that for the whole 40 lap race, he could be on top for another win here.
Yeah, definitely, as Josh Rogers comes towards, I believe that is all his laps over for qualifying right now. So he's only improved slightly, as you mentioned, but still on pole position for this race. A few other drivers out on the track. Ian Ford there in the number 2 car. And he's traveling through that. Listen, you can see the bumps as well, and the amount of undulation on this racetrack. It requires a lot of balance in this vehicle. But as he traverses through this section of the racetrack, this is only his first lap of qualifying, so he hasn't set a time lap at the moment, and he's using a lot of curb, which will be very important towards a very, very fast lap time. Yeah,
like you're saying, the bumps around here, there's a lot of them, and driving the car a lot around here, it's definitely difficult getting on the power. You got to really wait as that rear end of the car sort of settles down and squats. As you can see, Ian Ford getting sideways out of the last corner. He just comes across the line. He puts it into P2 at the moment with a 22.188, and that right now, if he can get this second lap together, he can maybe take Josh Rogers off that pole.
I think he's got room to improve, because that wasn't the best of laps, that first one. So if he gets a good, clean, smooth lap here as he goes on towards turn 2, he brakes very hard, and he trail brakes as well. A little bit of a lock up, but that'll help him get through the corner, back onto the throttle. Now here we go, that long straight all the way until turn 4, the China Beach. So he's going through that little turn 3 kink here, hugging the inside to minimize the track distance. Now as he gets close, you can see under braking again, he likes the trail brake, and that's an important factor in this car, as he needs a vital lap time this time around in qualifying.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of drivers have their different techniques, and especially trial braking is one of them in this car. And you can see he's just getting that car. He's really hooked up on this lap. The car looks actually nicely settled. That first lap, maybe the tyres weren't up to temperature with the colder weather, but this second lap, the car definitely looks hooked up. He's coming around through Thunder Valley. I think he just clipped the outside fence. Not 100% sure on that, but if he has, that may not be allowed with his time at the moment. But he's coming through the carousel, coming up to finish this time lap. He's sitting second at the moment, looks very clean, getting nice on the power. He comes across the line, and it's a 21.9, so he took pole position right there. Great lap from Ian Ford.
Yeah, good stuff there. So he'll start on P1, which will be crucial as well. Does he have the grip on that line, though, for the first corner? That's another factor that will come into play. A few other drivers down the field who haven't set their times. Richard Aylward, who's now under braking for turn 2. And does he have enough time to complete this lap? This will be his only time lap of the session, so very, very late and very risky as he struggles to get on the power on the run out of turn 2.
Yeah, I don't think he'll actually get across to complete this lap, which is unfortunate for Richard Elwood. He will be struggling down the back. He's one of those guys that you prominently see inside the top 10, even the top 5 in some cases as well. So this is not good for the ANZ driver, and he'll be trying to push as hard as he can, but I don't think he'll get a lap in. The same as Michael Hammond and David Baxter, and David Baxter really shown his pace last weekend at Monza and had an unfortunate incident through the first chicane at Monza. As he's coming around the carousel now, hopefully he can cross this finish line. He should have enough time. We'll see where this puts him, and it's actually no lap time there. So David Baxter, I don't think he'll be able to get around, and that'll be where he starts, right at the back of this field.
Oh, wow. So you talk about 8 minutes of qualifying, Jake, and not having the ability to set a lap time. This is where organization comes into play, and some of these drivers are going to have to start from the back of the field, but some of them do it by choice as we approach the grid now. I guess we'll speak about that a little later on.
Yeah, so we'll get you to run through the grid, Johnny, and we'll get ready to get started on this race.
Yep, almost ready for the green lights to go green as Ian Ford currently has pole position with a 1 minute 21.996, followed by Josh Rogers on that front row. Behind him, it's Mitchell Cholak and Ethan Grigoltz in 3rd and 4th. And it's Kane Kujmia and Forzan El Nabi in the 6th position. Bo Cattell in 7th, Matt Stratford 8th, Paul Gorell and Craig Jones round out the top 10. The rest of the grid on your screen as we approach race start.
Yeah, this is the rest of the field all starting to grid up now. It's close field actually. Just looking through the times now, it's the second cover is the top 10. Around here, that's not bad, especially with some of the drivers getting used to the colder weather. But we'll see how this all plays out, and it's going to be interesting to see Elwood and Hammond and Baxter as well come from the back end of this field.
So let's wait. You know, longer grid times as well. This maybe brings in maybe a formation lap should come into play sometime. Get these drivers, get the tires rolling, heated up, all that kind of stuff. But you know, maybe that could waste a little bit of time that the drivers don't want to do. So, bit of strategies coming into play. Drivers wondering if they will one stop. Most likely going to be a 0 though. And as we wait for the grid, the nerves build up and the tension build up. It's about who can keep themselves composed in these final seconds.
Yeah, it's just some of these final cars come onto the grid, and it's just, yeah, one of those things, the nerves start to build and the lights will start to come on as some of the final cars forming on the grid now. Just hearing these cars. Here comes the rev, so green lights are on, we're waiting here. Green flag, cars are away. A little bit of a slow start there behind from the ANZ car and Mitchell Cholak, but Ian Ford has got the jump. He's going to get it into turn 1 nice and cleanly on Josh Rogers as they actually have gapped behind them. Ethan Griggold around the outside as the cars from about 3rd and 4th on back are sideways through turn 1. It looks like everyone's gotten through it cleanly.
Yeah, El Nabi almost lost the car, but he's just waiting for those tyres to heat up now as they head into turn 2. Almost a little bit of contact there, but I think that was Kane, might have got into Bo Cattell. I'm not sure who that was, but they were very, very close
big
there
crash.
in that
Sorry,
second
Johnny,
chicane.
we got a big crash in the background. There's Paul Gorell is around, a whole bunch of other cars around in the back. There was a lot going on there. They were 3 wide coming out, and there was a massive accident back there. Sorry about that, Johnny.
That's all good as the battle for the leaders. Josh Rogers having a look at Ian Ford, but he's not going to be able to make a move stick here as they cross past turn 6. He's right onto the back of the field here. It's only lap 1 of 40, so he's really, really aggressive here. Josh Rogers, our winner from race 1, round 1 of season 2. And as we'll look at the run he's got here, it's incredible. He's staying calm, he's staying smooth, and Ian Ford's on the back foot.
Yeah, it looks like 40, as we've seen in qualifying as well. His time wasn't as good on the first lap, and it's just those colder tyre temps that couldn't come up to temperature, but he's coming around the final corner now through the carousel. Rogers, though, is harassing the back of that Holden Commodore, and if he can just get the temps up now, which it looks like he will for 40, he may be able to hold him off this second lap a bit better, as I've seen in the background another car around.
Oh, another car around. That's El Nabi who's round, and he's, well, those tyres weren't smooth. I think he's entered the pit lane at least. So Forzan El Nabi now, the pits, he's getting a few little repairs. We'll look at the replay on your screen too. So unfortunately, as he went past that little kink in the final corner, he just seemed to lose it, and he's into that inside wall. And, well, race over at the moment for Forzan El Nabi.
Yeah, it's unfortunate there. He's just got that bump. It gets a little bit loose off of that carousel into the kink into the last corner, and it just gets that little bit of a rear sideways oversteer, and he just lost it and put it in the inside wall. So unfortunate of that. But this battle up front, even behind them as well, we've got Ethan Grigault. He was not there for round 1 at Monza, and here he is today. He's solidly up inside the top 3 at the moment, and he will catch Josh Rogers and Ian Ford if they keep battling, and so will Kane Kugamiya behind him, and it could be a 4-way battle up front here.
Yeah, and I think Cattell's just let Cholak through for P5, so Bo Cattell might be struggling with something, just having a look at the screen there. And I feel like, well, he seems to pick up the pace now, so maybe a small little error for him, but he's got some clean air. So does Todd Parks in P7 right now, as Ian Ford still leads this race by a couple of tenths. Now, the question is, for Josh Rogers, can he get the run out of here, turn 1? This is where he needs to get that run on towards turn 2, set up Ian Ford on the exit as he gets very loose on the exit, gets onto the grass as well. And he just needs to maybe set himself for a pass into turn 4, which he can't do at the moment because he's just not close enough.
Yeah, he's just not close enough coming through the keyhole, and maybe if he can get that run. He tried for the wider mid-apex to get the late apex run to get a longer, faster straight line speed down this long back straight here. He may be able to have a look coming into turn 4. I think he will. Yes, he is. He's going to have a look. So down into turn 4. Both really late on the brakes. Ian Ford actually locked the right front. He's still, look at this, Rogers around the outside coming over the top of the hill through China Beach. He may be able to stick it to the inside of 40 here. He's holding it tough on the outsides, Ian Ford. They're coming through the S's now, and he's still there. They're still side by side, and look who's caught up. Ethan Grigault wants a battle of this.
I think Grigault's staying patient, which is a good thing to do, but Rogers was very aggressive. He almost caught Ian Ford under braking, so Ford cracking under a little bit of pressure there, but let's see if Rogers can set himself up once again into turn 4. It was amazing composure from Josh Rogers to throw it up the inside and not make contact, so incredible braking there and incredible talent. At the same time though, Ethan Grigault's dropped a little bit back as the top 2 now free themselves up. You might even think as he throws it up the inside, almost a move, and yes, he might have it done. Ian Ford concedes P1, and that lets Josh Rogers into the first position.
Yeah, I don't think 40 was expecting that one into turn 1, and Rogers got it done, but here comes 40 back onto the... Oh, he had a big look going into the keyhole. He's still there. A little bit of contact on the exit, and here comes Ethan Grigault on the inside of Ian Ford. He may be able to get this one done. He has already, and Ethan will actually have the run on Rogers. He could maybe have a go, so is Kane Kugamiya behind him.
Yeah, Kugamiya here around the outside. 2 cars around the outside into turn 4. And Ford almost loses it under braking. A little bit of contact between those two for 3rd and 4th. They give each other space though. The top 2, it's still Rogers and Grigault. But the battle here for P3 is Ian Ford has the inside line for turn 6. And he keeps his composure once again. So you see, that's the critical key to these early laps here. Lap 4 of 40. So only really 10% of the way through. These drivers are pretty feisty. They want to break away from the rest of the pack because we're not expecting strategy to come into play, Jake. We're expecting these guys to go all the way to the end until the checkered flag without a pit stop.
Yeah, that's right. It's just going to be a straight run to the finish here, and it's definitely bringing up some racing as you look behind the Kane Kugamiya as Mitchell Selak actually has gotten onto the back of Kane now after they were all battling down into turn 4, as well as Bo Cattell isn't that far off. We know he can his tyre management when he always goes sideways, he somehow manages to hold on towards the end, and the longer races may not doing well, but he still can see that front pack as it's all 6 wide at the moment as Selak on the inside of Kane Kugamiya coming into the keyhole. He may be able to get it done, and he does. So move Mitchell Selak up another position on his ANZ teammate.
Yeah, wow, what a save there as Cholak gets through. So, and we've had word as well that Martin Creamer's down there in P21 right now. Has had a bit of contact and he's off into the wall. It might have been with Brenton Hobson or maybe David Baxter. I'm not sure who that was with, but we'll find out shortly. And I feel like his race could be over. A lot of damage to that car as Jason Hyde seems to be getting lost from our timing screens.
Yeah, unfortunate to see what's happened to Jason Hyde at the moment. Don't know where he's gone on the timing sheets, and hopefully he can maybe pick up where he is. But yeah, he was running well in P8 at the moment, so we'll see whether he comes back up on our timing sheets. But at the front, the field sort of settled down at the moment, and we'll have a look, and hopefully they can all close back up later on in this one.
Yeah, you can see the time. They're starting to really deviate from each other as well. So in fourth, down there in third. Can he make his way back up to the front? Now, he does have the pace, but I feel like Josh Rogers just really has the confidence at this stage of the race, and maybe Ford, the car will start coming back to him as the race progresses, as he starts to maybe conserve those tires a little bit more, and that's where the trail braking comes into play. Those drivers who like to really throw the car into the corner head first and pedal out once they get everything collected together, they tend to use the tires a lot more. So strategy will come into play in terms of driving style later on in the race. Is can some of these drivers maintain tire life, which might not be too much of an issue, but you never know. If you start thrashing the car like a madman, it can still become an issue even if you're not expecting it to.
Yeah, especially with this car, tyre wear is a major thing you need to take into consideration with this thing, and it's one of the things that, especially with the cooler weather, it helps the tyres, it helps the longevity throughout the race, but it's still over a whole 40 lap distance around here at Mid-Ohio. There is a lot of undulation, a lot of throttle control, a lot of oversteer, especially out over the bumps, and that is where you'll lose a lot of your tyre grip, and it just will come to these drivers, and we'll see at the end who has managed that well, depending on the lap speed as well. And Rogers at the moment is moving up as we're looking back to Mario Vlasic in P12. He's right behind Wayne Kendall with Richard Elwood behind him, and they look like they're having a good scrap back here.
Yeah, coming towards the carousel, the final part of the lap, and I think Vlasic right now is he needs to do what Greg Galt did. Just be patient. He's behind a couple cars. Maybe get a little bit of a double slipstream. That final corner kills a few drivers. A little kink in there, off camber, and then it's cambered. It's very confusing. So car balance comes into play, but a very poor exit for Kendall out of turn one. This could allow Mario Vlasic to run into the second corner, and he tucks right in behind the Ford in front. Oh, and nice defending right at the last second, and Kendall keeps that position, but I think Vlasic might have the run outside of turn two, and oh wow, look at that. Kendall's kept it together, but this is where they go on the run down to turn four. He needs to keep composed. Is Kendall going to block just like he did before?
Yeah, he's going to play that defensive route straight into turn four as Vlasic looks like he's going to just back out of that one. And Kendall's actually gone really deep, and off he goes. He's off into the grass, so ran really deep there. Hopefully he doesn't come on right with Elwood. He actually has. He's come on right in the worst spot, right into Richard Elwood. Elwood not happy about that, I would think, and he's let Elwood through there, but that was unfortunately came on at the wrong time.
Straight off the racetrack, and if you need a mower and you're at Mid-Ohio Motor Sports Car Course, you've saved money, because that was way off the racetrack there, by the way, number one. And rejoining, that's what you need to really look, trust your spotter, all that kind of stuff. Kendall's in a bit of a hairy situation here, but as Greg Galt still leads. Oh, huge chain effect, domino effect contact here in P15. Very scruffy, as they need to keep it together in these final few corners, Jake. They seem to be much more occupied with the fact they made contact earlier, and they're not keeping themselves composed in terms of side-by-side racing. Yeah,
that's right. A little bit of a mistake, and they're all just sort of not wondering what's going on with all the contact and that, and just having a little, I'd say they're both heated under the collar, and it's just everyone else is just sort of joining the fight, and they're all just making mistakes. Kendall again deep, and it's all just going on back here. But looking back towards the front while that was all going on, somehow even Greg Galt is taking the lead from Josh Rogers. Unsure of how that has happened, but he is taking this lead, and he's going to take it by the scruff of the neck and try and pull away from Rogers. But Rogers is a high caliber driver. He's not just going to let him do that at the moment.
Yeah, so Rogers needs to fight back, and this is tyres, or there's no mistake coming through, who knows. They get extremely close to that wall, and I think they need to get closer. Racing needs more blood, and right now they're really fighting to the death. So I think Rogers, he's got two dilemmas for him right now. He can either save the tyres, save his composure, all the energy, all that kind of stuff until the end of the race, or he can go for it right now and try to break away. I don't think that second option is going to happen anytime soon, so he needs to find and study Ethan Greg Galt for a little bit, as Rogers may have made a mistake, and that's probably why he lost the first position, as he breaks very deep into that second corner. And I'll tell you what, a driver that can break very, very deep into corners is a driver I like, and a driver I'm confident in taking the lead.
Yeah, Rogers is always good with that. He definitely likes taking that wider entry into turn two and getting the run down this back straight, and as he's done that, he's staying with Ethan Greg Galt. We know these two have had some close racing all of last season, and they're back at it again. And it's just going to be interesting to see how Rogers attacks him here. I think sitting behind him at the moment, Johnny, will be better for him. He doesn't need to get that position now. It's lap 9 of 40. He doesn't need to take it by the scruff of the neck at the moment, but we all know Josh Rogers as a driver, he'll want to do that and try and pull away.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I see Ian Ford behind pull into us within a second of me, I'm passing Ethan Grigol at the closest and earliest opportunity I can get, because I do not want anybody else in the field interrupting my battle for the lead here. And when I say my battle, that's what Josh Rogers should be calling it. He should make P1 his own. He should intimidate Ethan Grigol up front. But it seems right now that Ethan is just a tough cookie to break, and he's really keeping his cool. Now, the top 6 separated by 3.8 seconds. That's important to note, because any type of contact that's made, any battles that come into play, all 6 of these guys, from Ethan Grigol all the way down to Bo Cattell, they're all in the fight for the lead. But apart from that, Todd Parks in P7's about 6 seconds behind Bo Cattell, so he's got a lot of time to make up. A few other battles down the field too. And as Rogers doesn't get the run out of turn 2, is this maybe a little bit of tyre management coming into play, where Josh Rogers should have been a little bit more conservative to begin the race rather than really thrashing those tyres?
Yeah, I think he may have just gotten on the grass a bit as well, and it could have hurt his run onto that back straight. But like you were saying before, Ethan's a very hard cookie to crack. He's a 4-time champion at the moment, and if he can make this one, it will be 5th one in a row. But Josh Rogers is going to be there as we look behind into P4. There's a battle here between Ian Ford and Mitchell Sealack. Sealack is all over the back of Ian Ford. Ian Ford just dropping away from those two in front and is bringing him back to Sealack. So maybe Ford hasn't conserved his tyres as much, and it's just going to be close towards the end of this one.
Yeah, Sealack getting very, very close, and well, these two are, visually you can tell that they're right into the top 2, but in a V8 supercar, I think 1/10 of a second is a lot of time. It's not like Formula 1 where you might think, you know, 1/10 of a second is a very close distance. You know, in V8 supercars, you'll ride up close to the driver in front or the driver behind, as Ian Ford gets a bit unsettled into that first corner, and he almost lost the front end. So right now the driver's still finding their balance, finding how the car handles at this stage of the race. They've surely done their testing throughout the week, or at least most of them should have. If I was a team owner, I'd be pretty disappointed, as you're looking for exposure at this point of the season and all that kind of stuff. So, you know what, we're all here for fun at the same time, though. It's good fun practicing, it's good fun doing hard work. Yeah,
that's right, and it's these high caliber teams, like what do we got? We got SDC leading with Ethan Grigol, then you got TTL with Josh Rogers, Evolution Racing Australia with Ian Ford, then you got the ANZ cars of Mitchell Sealack and Kane Grigor, as well as SSR of Synergy of Bo Cattell. So that sort of diversity that you can see up inside this top 6 is amazing, especially of this high caliber series, and just shows how much effort these teams put in and get to that top 6. And it's just starting to spread out as well between the top 2 and 3 and 4 at the moment, as Ethan Grigol Rogers really runs really deep into the carousel, and he actually picked up a lot of time there, got the run out of it as well, and he could be able to have another attack on Ethan at the end of this one.
Yeah, so lap times as they cross the line for Ethan Grigol sets a 1 minute 22.4. Behind him is Josh Rogers, a 1 minute 22.299, so basically a 0.3. Then you've got a 22.6 and a 22.5 for Ian Ford and Mitchell Sealack. So very, very identical, very, very close in terms of lap time, but slipstream comes into play, Jack, and I'm surprised that at some of these corners, drivers aren't tucking in straight away. Now, I like what Josh Rogers is doing here, but he's only got half the car in the slipstream. Put the whole thing behind and you'll get a great run out of the corner. And here he goes. Only 3/10 to make up now to Ethan Grigol. He needs to do the same at the exit of turns 4, 5, and 6 through the S's. And you don't notice it, but you do make up time even through the short straights.
Yeah, that's right, especially in this car, sticking with it. We've seen a Monza with the longer straights as well. Ian Ford was able to stick with Rogers, as Rogers at the moment is all over the back of Ethan Grigol, coming through the S section over this bump right here where the cars get really unsettled. They were both able to get the power to the ground. Coming through Thunder Valley here, Rogers is just starting to harass the back of Ethan. He just sat behind him a couple of laps, let his tyres cool off, and now he's able to attack. And Ethan is just doing really well through this carousel section as well to get the power onto this front straight. He's going to hold him off for another. Rogers was fully sideways as he hit that bump. So was Ian Ford in the background. So they're all pushing to the limit.
Yeah, and I think Rogers and Ford, one of them at least in the early laps was caught out by that. I can't remember who, but one of them was. And I think they need to notice that could be a race wrecker. They need to keep their cool through that final corner. The little kink off camber and on camber, it's everything in one corner. As Josh Rogers seems to, I thought he might have had a great run out of the final corner, but he got a little bit too, he turned in a little bit too early. So now Grid Gold will pull away. And this is what I'm talking about. You see, you put the whole car behind the car in front and you pick up a full slipstream. You don't put half your car to the left and half the car in the slipstream because it doesn't make a difference. You got to, you really got to tuck your whole 100% of the body behind the car in front. You gain the most time out of it. You'll be able to pass the car in front in no time. So as this battle's going on as well, that battle for P3 still carrying on. Ian Ford, Mitchell Selak. And down the order as well, a few drivers very close to each other. Cooper Murray in P12, Brenton Hobson and Wayne Kendall behind. So they've been involved in a few battles this race. So let's see how those pan out throughout the event. It's only lap 13 of 40, so plenty of chances to go. And they're only about 26, 27 seconds behind the leader. So I don't think lapping cars will come into play. They'll be very, very close come the end of the race.
Yeah, there may be a couple of cars towards the end of the race getting lapped, but I don't think that'll be as interesting. Rogers actually has another look like he did on Ian Ford, but Ethan's going to hold it really strong around the outside. He's got it done. Rogers got really tail happy going in, must have locked the rears a little bit under brakes into turn one, but Ethan's held that position well, and Rogers was going to try and do it again, what he did to Ian Ford. He's going to run that wider line. In the right's running that through the keyhole here into turn two. He's going to try and get that draft. Like you're saying, he needs to get that whole car behind Ethan, otherwise he's really just not doing anything with this draft. And he just had, this is really the only opportunity he can get it, but he's not making the most out of it. He's trying to fill the mirrors of Ethan, but down a straight, he's not doing what he should be, and it's not helping him at all.
Yeah, and you can say that Josh Rogers at turn one was ultra aggressive and it was nice, which I agree. But now Ethan Griggold needs to understand that if he doesn't trail brake into turn one, when Josh Rogers is that close behind next time around, he will most likely get passed here by P2 Josh Rogers. And you can hold off a driver for 26 laps. Remember at David Coulthard was very frustrated behind one of the arrows at Monaco many years ago, over 10 years ago. So you can hold a car off for many laps, and it's up to Ethan Griggold now to identify that Josh Rogers has made 2 overtakes this race at turn 1, or almost 2, and they've both been through trail braking. He's got to eliminate that option, and there we go. Good run out of the final corner. He's not going to be able to really have to defend in the turn 1 now, so he gets a calm look out of the corner.
Yeah, he's just got to get a little bit on the grass out of turn 1 there from Rogers, but he's just struggling as a look behind. It's Ian Ford on the defense from Mitchell Selak as they come into the keyhole section. He's just going to hold his line on the inside. Selak will want to get the run out of that corner. He looks like he's going to get right in the draft, which he is. He's trying to fill it up. He's still a bit off, but he's going to be there. He's going to fill those mirrors, Johnny, and he may be able to have a crack down here.
He's looking around the outside. Ford positions his car well under braking, and it's well, not the best look by Mitchell Selak, but he will be gifted by the fact that Ford's outbraked himself. And Selak around the outside, that's going to be very optimistic. He's not going to have the room, and he's really cost himself a lot of time because Kogemiya is right behind there in P5. Then Bo Cattell, he's very far behind, 5 seconds. So it's really a top 5 fight now between these drivers. 3.1 seconds separating them all. So that's where Mitchell Selak needs to recognize. If he goes forward and lunges, he might be able to sparks fly off that wall, which was nice to see. As if Selak does hit and miss, he will get passed here by Kane behind. So it's really staying patient with your moves and identifying if you're going to get the move done, it needs to be a certainty as the battle for P1 heats up.
Yeah, this battle is starting to liven up once again between Rogers and Ethan Griggold. Ethan is just doing all he can in that KSW STC Motorsports Commodore with Rogers in the Hyperstimulator TTL Ford Falcon. He's going to do this line that he does in the keyhole, runs a bit wide, tries to get that late apex. He needs to be all in this draft. If he can stick that whole car underneath that rear wing of Ethan, he could be able to get the draft, but he's not. Oh, he's got it down this time. He's running fully in the draft right now. He could be able to have a look going into turn 4. He's put his nose out. He's still there, he got it back in, and he's just going to sit behind him now. So he's just going to keep patient at the moment and just see what Ethan does. But Ethan isn't cracking under the pressure, Johnny, and we've seen that all the time with Ethan. And if he can keep doing this, he will definitely have the chance to hold him off as Rogers gets very close coming through the S's right now.
Yeah, Rogers incredibly close as we have a side-by-side with 9 and 10 here, the two Michaels on the racetrack, but Rogers for the lead is incredibly close. So here we go. They're going to go up to this sparking wall, and as Rogers has stuffed up this final carousel chicane, so he's really has to pick up the pieces together, and he does, which is nice. And it's about, I mentioned it before, whether he can get a good run at this final corner and trail break into turn 1. I think he's a little bit too far behind, but I have a look. Just go for it, Josh. And he's, yeah, I think that's good though. He's a little bit too far behind. Gets a good run out of the corner, and he may have the slipstream going into this corner. Now, you've been battling for this long, Jake. He's still not using the slipstream as much. He surprises him under braking. There's going to be a little bit of contact. He keeps it together, so all clean as they fight for the exit here. And Josh Rogers has to play bridesmaid for another lap.
Yeah, he even actually went on defensive very early there, battling for this long. He's like, oh, just maybe Josh is just a little bit close, but Josh could be close coming here into turn 4. He may have another look, and he doesn't. He just sits behind him. But this battle up front is awesome to watch. These two are always been fighting out, like I said earlier on, that they've always had close battles, and it's on once again. And Rogers just looks actually the better of the two, and if he can get it done, he can maybe have a go towards the turn 1 again. But he's having a look through the S's. Oh, was there a bit of contact? Maybe just a little bump going through there.
Yeah.
As Rogers fully sideways, so here it comes. The bumping is on. It's all going to be on up front.
Yeah, good to see them both heat up for the lead here. It's all clean, all good. As I think Italianich maybe got blocked off the racetrack. He's on the radio. Just race. Forget about the radio. Concentrate on the racetrack as the Rogers. See, that final corner is a race killer, and if you can just get a good run out of there, it's really, you have to play patient. An overtake at turn 4 starts at the final corner. You get a great run out of the final corner. You stay close out of turn 1, get a good run, then you set the person up in front offline. That's what Josh Rogers needs to do. He can't attempt an overtake into turn 2. He just needs to impede Ethan Griggold and force him offline. Give him an abnormal line for a weird exit out of this second corner as they go 0 to 100 in less than 4 seconds in this V8 supercar. And then here we go. We're on towards turn 4. This is where you make the overtake stick. You get that outside line under braking, keep it together, and you have the inside here into turn 5. And you see how I'm talking about overtaking is a game of chess. It all starts at the final corner.
Yeah, it all does, and if he can get that run through the final corner, he'll be able to get it done. And we've seen him have a go into turn 4 early on in the race for Josh, and he just hasn't had another look since then. I don't know whether he thinks it's just not the viable option against Ethan Griggold, but if he can get definitely can get that run out of the final corner. He can have a look through turn 1. There's a bit of a gap, but while they were battling, the cars behind of Ian Ford and Mitchell Seelak actually gained over half a second on the two in front. So if these two keep battling again, it could be a 4-way battle for the lead, and Kane isn't too far off the lead either. He's only 4 seconds away, and if they all start battling, who knows how many people could be in this fight. And without that little bit of strategy of the pit stop, it's all up to these guys driving it. And that little bit of a strategy of the no pit stop, Johnny, it just makes them have to work that much harder. And I think Josh now, seeing Ian, will want to have a go pretty soon. Yeah, definitely. And that's where we're almost at 50% distance too. You can just tell Josh Rogers now, the front end starting to struggle. You mentioned before that you didn't think he was trying to overtake too much. I think he's really been trying hard. He just can't get it done. I just think the front end of the car is just not biting well at this stage of the race, which is not good to see. Over the past lap, he struggled to turn that Ford into corners. And once again, there you see he just doesn't get the apex at turn 5. So now he's 7/10 behind. He is really struggling with the front end of the car. Are we seeing the demise of Josh Rogers in this race early on, or is he just making a little bit of silly mistakes, or maybe he's doing it on purpose to maybe trick Greg Gold to think he's got the lead to his own, and now this is where Rogers pounces because he's just tricking us. Yeah, that's right. It could be also Rogers just overdriving this car. You can't do that. The V8 supercar, you really have to finesse. It's not one of those things that you can push super hard. As in the background, we've lost poor Bo Cattell. Bo Cattell has gone off coming over through the S's section of the track. He's rejoined. He's lost a position though. So as we look back on the replay now, and he just got it loose over that hump. We were talking about it before, going in and just lost it coming through that corner, and off he went. He was able just to lock the brakes well, and only lost the one spot to Todd Parks, who was lucky to avoid him, and he got it back going. And, he's back on the track, only lost that one spot down to 7th, but lucky not to hit anything there.
Yeah, it looked like a diff issue a little bit for Bocatella. If you had like a really good adjustable diff, you might have been able to really not have that kind of incident in this V8. But it really is a tough car to drive, and it's very underrated at the same time. So for Bocatella right there, he's going to carry on. Didn't lose too much time, about 9 seconds that lap. So he's still there in P7, and he's still got a race in his hands. He's got a... I think he can still catch Todd Parks come the end of the race. Let's keep track of maybe how his tyres handle after that mini spin.
Yeah, that's one thing you wouldn't want to have done to the tyres, just sliding through that corner. And yeah, this car is definitely hard to drive. I know as a fact, driving it myself all the time, it's not the easiest car I've driven, and it just throws up so many obstacles, especially with the weight and not having a lot of aero like some of the cars you're used to, Johnny, with all the F1 stuff and that. They've got a lot of aero, these ones don't. That's one of the things, these cars are just different and harder to handle. And the tyres, it looks like we're talking about Rogers maybe struggling with the front. He started to pick it up this time. He actually gained 2/10, a 22.7 from Ethan Grigault and a 22.5 from Josh Rogers. So he's gotten the tyres maybe down a little bit, cooled them off, and he's starting to have another attack.
Yeah, so he's maybe picking up the pieces. As you mentioned, overdriving the car. This is where somebody really needs to be on the radio to him. He does have Jake Maloney talking to him to this race, spotting for him, helping him out. He really needs to coach him at this situation. There's no radio bans or any of that BS. He can just tell him, don't overdrive the car, don't do any of that, keep it cool. And Rogers now seems to be doing that. Look at the way he clipped that apex. That is beautiful right there. Into turn 5, through 6 as well. Greg Goltz is it's going to be round 2 for these two for the lead. And I guess at this stage of the race, there's plenty of action still to go. And it's only lap 21 or 40 as Greg Goltz still leads by half a second. So, as I said, Jake, there's a lot of time left, and this is where Rogers needs to attack patiently if those two words don't contradict each other in the same sentence.
Yeah, that's right. He needs to attack patiently, and that's the thing. He's had so many attacks on Ethan earlier on in this race. He's going to have once again, just couldn't get that run out of the final corner. Like you were saying, he was sideways again, and this is going to hurt his entry into turn 1. He's going to try and run a little bit of a later apex than Ethan to get the run into the keyhole, but I don't think he'll have it. As actually, we have in front a little bit of lap traffic coming up. I think that is just trying to get the car of Martin J. Creamer, so he did have a little bit of a mistake earlier on, and he's just struggling for pace at the moment. But Ethan and Rogers, they will catch him. That could play a little bit of a different card, Johnny, and it could just bunch this entire top 4 up. Hopefully Martin can move out of the way pretty quickly.
Yeah, let's see how this race pans out. Vlasic in P10, he's only 8/10 behind Michael Hammond, who was in a battle before with the other Michael, Teljanich. And he's fallen down after a little bit of contact, so he's down in P11, Cooper Murray in P12. You look at Wayne Kendall down the order as well. So still lots of drivers in this race. You mentioned before 23 out in the field. Good to see good strength and good numbers here for the V8 series. Led laps this race. Greg Goltz led 15, Rogers 3, Ian Ford 3. Could we say Ian Ford maybe win this race come the end? Is he just playing it patiently and really conserving his pace and his tyres? Because, you know, believe it or not, Jake, years ago when I was racing the V8, tyre management to me was a huge crucial factor, and I seemed to be the best at that. When it came to pace, I was horrible, but when it came to all the fast guys thrashing their tyres, I ended up with a few race wins, which is good to see. So maybe Ian Ford right now, who is fast and could be smart as well at the same time.
That's right, and also you got to think of behind him the leading ANZ car, Mitchell Stilak, as he gets sideways out of turn 1. He could also play a little bit of a wild card into this. He's still there, he's shown the pace, but he hasn't been attacking as much. He's just sort of been floating around and following these guys. He could have the better tyre wear later on in this race, as Josh Rogers and Ethan Grigault actually start to catch this lap car as Martin moves over on the inside coming into turn 4. Well done, good sportsmanship there, and hopefully he can let these other two behind him through when he does that. So good job from Martin there, let the leaders through and they can keep going with their battle.
Yeah, it's really annoying when back markers get in the way, and it's good to see Martin Creamer just letting them fight and not trying to take over the race, because sometimes, well, Creamer really hasn't done much this race in terms of in lead battles, but he is still trundling away in P19, so maybe a couple of points for him here and there, and maybe a little bit of see how he goes, see what he's trying to achieve. Let's a few more cars through as well. You know, you get so many incidents where backmarkers are frustrated, and because they've been in incidents and they want to get in the way of the lead battle, get some TV time, and it's another factor for another day, Jake. I could rant all day about backmarkers because I've been one and I've been involved in incidents with others, so I've been everywhere with backmarkers.
Yeah, backmarkers is myself as well. I've had odd little tangles with them and have been them. It's one of those things that you've got to manage, especially in these longer races. And even though there's no pit stop, they still come into play. And just looking back after Martin Cream is Richard Aylwood on he's P7 at the moment. He actually started. Actually, he's a lap down. I'm surprised by that. He's obviously had an issue there. That's my mistake. I didn't know that. He's rejoined. He had a lot of pace on the car, but just moving back up front, the lead pack has sort of died down a little bit. Rogers hasn't been able to get the run on Ethan lately, but he's definitely looking better with that front end, like you're saying before, or maybe cooling off those tyres may be able to help him towards the end of this race, Johnny.
Yeah, and you look at rubber as well that builds on throughout this event, and that's a critical factor that came into iRacing around August, September last year. Remember the WC or the IWC GPS race last year at Suzuka, where that came into play for the first time, and it really heated up qualifying. So as the race progresses here, we're going to see less overtakes offline because of those marbles and because of all the rubber too. And you can see the track sort of darkening a little bit too. So it's up to Kagemia's dropped off. He's down in P5, he's 3.7 seconds away, but the top four, it's 2 seconds. I think we've got a real big. I'm calling it now. We got a nice little fight here, and I know you said it before, but I'm officially calling it a top 4 fight for the win.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's going to be one of those top 4 grandstand finishes here. We had one at Zolder last season with the fuel where Rogers made a little mistake and got a curb hop that actually hurt him, and Ethan somehow came away with the victory there. And it looks like we're going to have the same thing this time. It's not a Jared Filsell, it's a Mitchell Seelag in the ANZ car. And that could just be who could throw it up here. Mitchell Seelag sitting there in 4th, but like you said, yeah, definitely a top 4 battle on from here on out. Lap 25 of 40. We're coming down to the closing stages of this race. The top 2, a little bit of time difference there. 22.7 from Ethan Grigalt in the last lap with Josh Rogers at 22.4. So Rogers definitely showing that pace that he has towards the end of this race.
Yeah, but Rogers seems to struggle in those overtaking spots, which isn't good. So he needs to do something extra come the end of this race. He can't keep carrying on like this because it's going to be Grigalt winning the race. Grigalt's a tough cookie, as I mentioned before. He's not going to be broken anytime soon. It's up to Rogers, Ian Ford, and Seelak as well to think about something extra to do as Seelak gets very, very loose come the end of the lap. And has that cost him a chance here at sticking to the back of this top 3 pack? And he might be able to, maybe not be able to attach himself. So he needs to get a string or something and stick it to Ian Ford, because right now he could lose that slipstream, that vital draft.
Yeah, that's right, he could lose that draft, but while we're talking about that, Ian Ford, that lap, has gained a lot of time as it's visibly closer. As actually he made a mistake there through the keyhole. I don't think he was wondering what Josh Rogers is doing around that wider line, maybe braked a bit late and locked a brake going into the keyhole section, and he's now lost that time that he gained up the last lap. But Ian Ford, like you're saying, Johnny, he maybe just cooled off those tyres, settled the tyre temps and settled his tyre wear, and now he's able to attack towards the end of this race, and he's there. He's visibly there now. He's definitely on the back of Josh Rogers, and actual Mitchell Seelak is starting to close up a little bit even after his little mistake the past lap.
Yeah, and the good thing here for Seelak is if the top 3 start battling side by side, anything like that, they lose seconds per lap. So that allows Seelak to reel himself back in. He just needs to stay in touching distance. This isn't Mario Kart. You're not going to hit into anything and reel back onto the back of the pack. You have to earn it. And right now for Seelak, he's done exactly that. He's going to go through the final corner. So does Grigalt, who will begin lap 27 of 40 for this event. A 1 minute 22.5 for the top 2, a 22.4 for Ian Ford, and then a 22.3 for Seelak behind. 1.8 seconds the gap now between the top 4.
Yeah, that gap under 2 seconds between the top 4. It's gonna, this fight has been awesome throughout the entire race. Sorry to the rest of the field, we know you are racing out there, but this fight up front, it has been on since the word go. It's definitely brought something that weren't expecting at all with this long race distance of 40 laps, but the weather has definitely helped them being able to run this faster pace for a lot longer than they would have if it was hotter. The tyres would have went off and they wouldn't have been able to battle this hard, but now here we go. The top four starting to close in again. I think Rogers looks like he may have the stronger car over Ethan, but then you look behind and Ian's actually running well with his tyre wear at the moment, and he could be able to pose a later threat, but he's just got to get to the back of him at the moment.
Yeah, and you can see the difference in lines. Selak's taking much tighter line, at least through that complex of the racetrack. They come towards the carousel now, and I love the sparks that just fly up there as these cars graze the wall. And that Ford just seems to... He's taking a much tighter line there, and this is where Selak does it differently. The other turn it was opposite. It seemed that Ian Ford was taking a much more conservative line. Now, the top two have broken away as Rogers, who doesn't attempt another trail break. We mustn't forget that. Two of his attempts, one of them successful, have been at turn one. One was successful on Ian Ford. Greg Galt kept the other one behind. So right now for Rogers, we mustn't forget he can still pounce at any moment. And this is where Greg Galt just needs to take his normal lines and be defensive where appropriate.
Yeah, that's right. He just needs to be defensive. He may have to have another look. Rogers down into turn 4 here, coming through the kink now. If he can have a look, he may just fill out the mirrors of Ethan and just get him a little bit away. He needs to know he's there, but he doesn't. He just sits in behind him. Couldn't get the draft that time. And it's just going to sit behind him and just float around at the moment. But Rogers definitely looks stronger of the two up front, and Selak looks stronger of the two behind. And he is now harassing the back of the Maverick Welding Holden, and he may be able to have a look coming through the Esther section. It's a hard place to overtake. I have seen it done through here. A lot of the time you just follow single file, and that's what they do now. But Selak definitely looks like the better car of the two behind.
Selak right now as they come towards the carousel for yet another time around. It's up to who pounces first, you know. Right now this is stayed stagnant for most of the race. Right behind Hammond and Vlasic are very, very close to Jason Hyde. Another battle going on throughout the field. So I guess at this stage of the race, drivers are maybe just struggling to overtake. The dirty air comes into play a little bit in terms of turbulence, but not as much maybe, because these are touring cars. This isn't any Formula 1 type racing. This isn't open wheelers. So Rogers, right now, I feel like I don't want to bring that slipstream element into it, but I think he could do a much better job in terms of exiting and just really collecting that slipstream early. He could save him maybe half a tenth a lap. If you multiply that by 5, you're already 2.5 tenths closer.
Yeah, that's right. Like we were saying before, maybe overdriving the car in that later stages, and he may be able to think, oh yeah, I'm behind Ethan, let's start having a crack. And if he overdrives it a little bit, you just lose it, especially with the marbles offline. You go offline, the tyres won't be how you'd like them through the next section of the track, Johnny. And if he continues to do that, he may not be able to have another crack. And that's one of the things with these guys behind that have been consistently there as they close in this lap. If they start to have another look, Johnny, on Rogers, Ethan could easily skip away here towards the end.
Yeah, and that's where Ford and Selak need to be smart in terms of, am I fighting for P2 or for the win? Because I would wait for Rogers to start fighting with Greg Galt, because that would reel myself in from P3 and P4. And in terms of keeping the tyres cool and waiting for the front end to bite, Ian Ford's just basically been studying these two guys. At least if I was in his position, I'd understand, oh, okay, you know, Rogers likes to break very deep into turn 1. Maybe I'll start to defend that. Or, you know, Greg Galt struggles on the exit of turn 3, perhaps, for example, even though turn 3 is actually a kink here. I mean, turn 2. And this is where right now Rogers has another look around the outside. Is that somewhere where Ford needs to catch Rogers unaware? This is where you can study them, and then with 5 laps to go, if they're not making any progress, that's when you pounce.
Yeah, that's right. It's where you need to find their strengths and weaknesses of the two drivers in front of him, and Ian was in the best position at the moment for the entire race to study these two in front of him. And that's one thing Rogers will be doing as well. He'll be learning how Ethan's going, even though, like you're saying, he's a hard cookie to crack. He's been able to study how Ethan drives around and the lines that he takes and picks up his strengths and weaknesses. He knows he can have a look into turn 1. He has had a go, but Ethan was able to hold it around the outside. He runs a different line to him through turn 2, but Josh Rogers can definitely have a look wherever he needs to. But this top 4, it hasn't spread. They're closing in even more, and we're coming up to finish lap 30. We'll be 10 to go, and 10 laps to go. Who knows what's going to happen towards the end of this one?
Yeah, let's see if... Is Craig Jones in P... So Craig Jones crossing turn 1 now, and then you see Greg Galt on screen in the top 4 positions here. So Greg Galt, Rogers, Ford, Cialak. And it's Kagemiya in P5, who was lost from the timing screens. He's back on. He's all good. Todd Park 6th, Bocatel 7th, Hyde, Hammond, Vlasic around out the top 10. I don't really think anyone else is really going to be lapped in this field. Maybe Fee and Jones, Mark Fee and Craig Jones, but will the back markers come into play? That's another question as well. Will they maybe catch him in a little bit of an unusual part of the racetrack? You're looking at the S's, turn 6, 7, and 8, maybe the final corner at the carousel. So that's a factor to come into play. Jones is really now, as the driver's brake here for turn 4. Craig Jones is, where is he? He's exiting turn 6, so he's very, very close to the leaders.
Yeah, and I think at the rate they're catching him, they could catch him towards the end of this race, which is not something you want to be catching a driver around when you're trying to have your most solid laps and your attack laps. You want that lead, as we've just got Todd Parks has run off wide. So P6 he would have just run wide and lost all that time that he had. Just going to have a look. Yeah, he just ran wide through turn 2 and was off in the weeds and went rallycross moment and came back on and off and around. He hit the wall, but he managed to somehow get it back on the track. A little bit of damage, but hopefully he can finish his run out. But he lost a spot to Bocatel, and he'll just try and finish this race and keep his head down towards the end of this one.
Yeah, I don't think he knew that there would be a rallycross jump there. Mitchell de Jong would be proud of that, Hugo, if you're talking to your Coanda teammates later, because that was a huge jump across the tarmac. But a little bit of contact with the wall, so he's all fine. He's down there in P7. He's lost the position to Bocatel, who also had a spin. So rate of attrition in this race, or it's a race of attrition for some of the drivers down the order. For the top 4, not so much. And as I say that, Rogers is very close behind once again, and I'm getting sick of this, Jake. There needs to be something different that Rogers needs to attempt, because he is the faster car in my opinion. He just can't get past Greg Galt. Now, not taking it away from Ethan Greg Galt, who will deserve this win if he can take it. There we go, first mistake of the race I've seen from Greg Galt, almost losing the car on the exit through the S's, as Rogers has an incredible look here.
Yeah, that's right, and he actually hurt him going through turn 9 or turn 8. Turn 9, sorry, yeah, it was. He got a little bit wide there and didn't get the apex, and this allowed Rogers just to zone in on the back of that KSW painting Commodore. And if he can keep it up, he maybe get this run out of the final corner like you're saying. He's done that quite nicely. He may be able to have a late break into turn 1. Will he have a look? No, he doesn't. He sits behind him, but yeah, here we go. That rate of attrition, like you're saying, it comes into factor in these longer races. We're pushing right now, we're pushing towards the 45-minute mark, so they've been in these cars a long time, especially without a pit stop, as Ethan runs really wide, late break, as 40 nearly has a look, but here we go. I think that actually hurt Rogers there. He tried to get that run off the back straight there, Johnny, but it's hurt his run. He's not getting the car in the draft, and it's just, he's lost this attempt that he could have had down into turn 4.
Yeah, he's been a little bit inconsistent under braking, but when he gets it right, he is the top driver under braking. That's the only problem, is he tends to get it wrong half the time. But look at that, Greg Galt gets it wrong through turn 5, and that allows Rogers another look. But through this section of the racetrack, there's just no space for Rogers to make his way through. Catch him on the way to throw it up the inside anywhere here, Josh. You've got to attempt something, and look at this, Greg Galt bouncing away through the curbs. That car is settled very, very well. The suspension of that car is great. And Rogers just seems to, through this section of the racetrack, he seems to be the expert, and he just gets a great run out of it. As Rogers, here we go, look, he's having a peek, I can tell. He wants to pass Ethan Greg Galt, but he just can't get past. So lap 34 about to begin, as Rogers loses the car a little bit, does not allow Ian Ford through.
Wow, he definitely got loose coming out of that last corner. He managed to save it. But yeah, Ian Ford now all over the back of Josh Rogers. Now Ian knows, he's been watching him. He's been watching Josh run this wider line. Can he have a look down into turn 2? He's gonna think about it. He's getting very close, but what does this do? It lets Ethan have a little bit of a skip away. But Ian's right in the draft right now of Josh Rogers. He's putting that whole car in like you're saying, Johnny. He's got it right in there. He may be able to have a look into turn 4 as they come through the King. I don't think he will be close enough though. but Ian has always been really good on the brakes, and here he goes. He thought about it, he filled up the mirrors, but couldn't get it done.
Yeah, and this is where Ford needs to really concede. Is he going to be able to get the lead? Otherwise, I think just fight with Rogers, because maybe Ford has a better chance here at passing Greg Gault. He might be better in those sections of the racetrack where Greg Gault struggles instead of where Rogers has been. But actually, I take that back. Rogers has been strong in that first sector. I just think Greg Gault's been superb this race. He's kept that car together. The setup has really helped. I don't think he's really put a foot wrong, other than a couple of feet wrong every now and then, but not many. And so for Greg Gault, he's got a real balanced car. I think Ian Ford should just go for P2 now. There's only 5 laps to go, 6 laps to go after they cross the line.
Yeah, that's right. I think Ian Ford's best opportunity right now is to attack Josh Rogers, but Rogers actually gapped him towards the end of that lap, just showing how strong that TTL Ford Falcon is at the moment. As Ciolak in the background runs really wide coming through turn 1. That's going to hurt him in this battle for the win, and oh wow, they're very late on the brakes. And like we're talking about Craig Jones, Johnny is now starting to play a little bit of a factor. He's not that far up in front, and could he maybe be that little bit of lap traffic that could hurt these 3 up front?
Yeah, it definitely is. They really need to. Well, they're catching up. Yeah, the back marker coming into play. So is that Craig Jones in front? So Craig
Yes.
Jones. Oh my goodness! This is heating up. This is the most intense part of the race right now. Because is he going to let them through? That's the big question. Look how close the top 3 are. Don't forget top 4 actually. Ciolak's still in this battle. This is very hair raising. They're catching Jones towards the tight end of the racetrack, the carousel. I think Jones could actually let them through here after the final corner. I'm confused. I don't know when he's going to let them through. It's getting very close. I'm getting nervous. I'm nervous.
I think the only possible solution for him to let him through is going into turn 2. I don't think they'll be close enough to turn 1. We got to remember, Jones is having a race, even though he's by himself at the moment, but he's still racing. He still is allowed to run around. But I think, maybe they may be able to get away with this coming through the turn 2 at the moment. But those 3 are catching the back of Craig Jones, as well as in front of them is Mark Fee. So who knows, these 2 lap markers could play a major role. As Ethan, a little bit of a mistake going into turn 2, and Rogers is all over the back of him now as they come down the back straight. Here we go, let's see what happens with Craig Jones. Hopefully he can maybe pull over to the right hand side. You'd hope so, because it's going to be on, and he does. Here we go, let's see if Rogers has an attack. Let's have a dive go. Put it down there, Josh. He doesn't. He sits behind him. He needed to have a crack. He could have got it done, but he didn't. He's just sitting behind him. Just throw it down the inside, Josh. Let's get it on.
Yeah, and sometimes people will argue that Josh Rogers shouldn't have been soft and maybe thrown it up the inside. I think Rogers did the right thing there. You don't attempt an overtake if there's a 100% chance of you making contact with the driver in front. You stay behind and you race cleanly. So that's the difference between being smart and not being smart right there. Josh Rogers really, yeah, you can argue he should have thrown it up the inside, but I just think Greg Gault, the confidence under braking, especially through all the bumps there in the braking zone, I just don't think Rogers could have made it through. It's just physically impossible for that car to make his way through. But here we go, lap 37 as they cross the line. It's heating up, 4 laps to go as Rogers throws it up the inside, very, very close under braking.
Yeah, that's right. We got another lap car. So Mark Fee again, it caught him quicker than I would have thought. These guys are on the limit. And Mark Fee, hopefully he lets them through on the back straight. But these 2 once again, Ethan and Rogers. Rogers is running that wider line a little bit sideways. So was Ethan. They're both that tyre wear starting to play a major factor towards the end of this race. Josh is not close enough to have a look into turn 4, but he's running a different line, maybe just showing the mirror, filling up that mirror with that hyperstimulator Ford. But now they've caught Mark in the wrong place, and Mark Fee's let them through. Good sportsmanship there from Mark. He let them through it, sort of the best opportunity he could, and it hasn't hindered the lead battle that much, Johnny, but that would have just played something a little bit into the hands of these 2 up front, just getting all that bit closer now.
Yeah, you can. They caught him at the wrong time, but anyway, they made their way through. We're all racing cleanly. Now we can forget about that. We go back to the dilemma here with the top 4 is that Rogers just can't make his way through. I think that's that, and he's really trying hard. You mustn't take it away. He is trying, but I don't think he's trying the right things. He needs to try different things, and that's the problem here. As Ciolak, though, can he make it onto that podium, Jake? Here's the question right now, is that I think Ford's dropped behind a little bit, and Selak could have an attempt at the podium as he loses the car on the exit, mows the lawn a little bit, but he's still in P4.
Yeah, he actually gained 4/10 that last lap on it in Ford, and if you can keep that up, you may be able to have another crack. But just moving up to this battle up front again that little bit, it looks like Rogers, he's moving out of the draft, but he's just moving out of that draft at the wrong times, especially when you want to make it. You lose that little bit from pulling out so early. He's not going to have the maximum speed he could gain from the drafters. I think he's just running different lines right here. He needs to get it together and just calm down the front end of this car and settle down, see where he can maybe have a crack. He's got to get it done soon. Lap 38 or 40, there's not many laps to go. They were coming up to 2 laps to go when they crossed the stripe, and who knows what's going to happen between these two. Maybe some little bit of bumping, which can happen in touring cars, and I'm all for it. That's racing out here, especially with these big tin tops. It's definitely different to what other classes are, and we'll see what happens towards the end of this one.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, that Rogers is only 2/10 behind Ethan Griggold. The final corner, this is the closest he's been for quite a while now. Look at the run he gets out of that final corner too. He's the closest he's been in quite a while, as I said, but not close enough. He will get a good run out of that first corner. A little bit of a shake here for Ethan Griggold as they run down to turn 2. 2 laps remaining in this event. And Rogers around the outside forces Griggold to the inside. Has he caught him under pressure? He has, but Griggold parks it on the apex. What a save there. What a move. Great defensive driving. And Rogers almost loses it on the exit. Incredible stuff here.
This battle is well and truly on, and it's all brought the 4 of them together. The defensive move that Ethan did, he did it well, and here comes Ian Ford with a big look on Josh Rogers. He still managed to pull it up. He's trying to fill the mirrors of Rogers, but Rogers is not having any of it, and Selak is now all over the back of Ford. Who's to watch here? It's all on. There's 2 laps to go, or 1.5 now, coming through the S's. Who knows who's going to win this? There's 4 cars up here, and any single one of them can take this race.
Yeah, one of them needs to bump one of the others. I think Rogers here needs to give Griggold a little bit of a bump because he had him last lap around. Let's see if he can do the same thing here on the exit. They will begin the final lap soon. Oh, a poor run there for Josh Rogers, but he keeps it together. He keeps his head cool. And out of the final corner, he's not close enough, but he's still close. This could be a very, very hot final lap.
Yeah, as they're coming through turn 1 right now, we have started the final lap. The white flag is out, and let's see what's going to happen here. So they're coming through turn 1. The cars are all well and truly sideways there from Ian Ford in 3rd. But Rogers, he needs to have a look, but he doesn't. He's going to run his normal line. Yeah, he's running a bit closer line. He's trying to stick behind right in that draft of Ethan Griggold. He's gotten the power really nice. He could have a look down into turn 4, Johnny, and it may be one of his last opportunities.
Yeah, so he's not exactly in the slipstream as much as he should be, and that's really going to cost him here on the run down to turn 4. Brakes very deep, not enough to have a look, but he's extremely close. Here's the bump he needed, and he goes off track as well. That forces Griggold. Griggold keeps it together, and Rogers maintains P2. Here's Ford having a look here at turn 6. A little bit of a tap, and that forces Rogers wide, and that allows Ian Ford into the 2nd position. And I think Griggold's got this race 1 hand, 2 hands on the trophy now.
Yeah, a little bit of a bump there from Ford. He sort of made that room just a little bit late there, and Rogers wasn't expecting it, but it's definitely led Ethan Griggold off the hook as he's coming down through Thunder Valley, coming into the carousel right now. Wonder whether Selak's going to have a look on Ian Ford, but he hasn't. So here we go, Ethan Griggold coming across the line. He will take out round 2 of the official V8 Supercar Championship Series. Ian Ford in 2nd, Selak 3rd, and Rogers in 4th. Wow, what a race there, Johnny.
Yeah, incredible stuff. And I thought they were going to make contact at the end of the race. I can tell Rogers isn't happy about that, and he would have liked a little bit of maybe you could say proper sportsmanship or something like that. I don't know what the word is, but I think that's racing. I think bumping is racing, and in touring cars and these tin tops and the V8s, I think that's fine. I mean, unless Rogers gets some sort of penalty for that, which he probably won't, because they don't want to give him a penalty if he even appeals for it. Not Rogers, sorry, for Ian Ford. I don't think he'll get one, and I think that means that it was all legal then.
Yeah, it's one of those things. TTL and Ian Ford and all of them have all come together before, and it's just one of those things that they all get fired up about as some of the final cars coming across the line. So we'll talk that about after this. As some of these cars come across the line, we'll get you to run through the results, Johnny, of what was a classic race here at Mid-Ohio.
As Ethan Grid Gold celebrates a scintillating win here, he comes home P1 for race 2, round 2 of the V8 Supercars series at iRacing. Ian Ford right behind him, P2, 1.1 seconds at the finish line. A little bit of contact there with Josh Rogers, who came fourth, so very close between those two, and probably a bit of words to feed between each other after the race. Sialak split those two, he finished third, the final step of the podium. Then it was Kane Kagimia in the 5th position, Bo Cattell in 6th, Todd Parks, Mario Vlasic, Jason Hyde and Wayne Kendall rounding out the top 10. The rest of the field, you can see Brenton Hobson, and then a few notable names down the order. David Baxter, the last man on the lead lap. Mark Fee, Craig Jones, who came into play towards the end of the race as a few lap cars. Some DNFs for you as well. We know all what happened to Richard Aylward, as well as El Nabi in the early laps of the race. Just could not keep that car together.
Yeah, it's wow, what a race that was, Johnny. It's yeah, a lot of cars having a little bit of mistakes early on, but that entire race was well and truly on up the front. Yeah, who knows, a little bit of bumping here and there is okay. I don't know whether that was the right thing for Ian Ford to do there. I think a little bit of a bump and run maybe wasn't on at the time, but definitely going to be some heated conversations after that one, Johnny, and who knows who's going to, each team will have their own side of it, and it's going to be one of those things that we'll have to take away from this one. But definitely Ethan Griggold, awesome race from him. You can't say he didn't drive excellently through that entire race, and he's a well-deserved winner.
Yeah, and as I said, you mustn't take it away from him, and as you said as well, incredible race. We'll speak to him soon enough, but that car just looked sublime. I mean, that was balance from Ethan Griggold. If you can keep that together, you know, you've got other rounds this season towards the end. You know, Montreal could be a good one in terms of curb use, but next week, Road Atlanta, who knows how he's going to manage all the bumps and curbs there. Those kinds of racetracks. Maybe you could throw in Road America too, Mosport Park, or Canadian Tire Motorsports Park as it's known now. Bathurst, maybe for Ethan Griggold. There's a few rounds where similar type of venue, similar type of racetrack could be very good for him.
Yeah, that's right. And long season as well. It's only round 2 and the sparks are already starting to fly. So let's bring Ian Ford up for an interview here. So Ian Ford, P2 today. I don't think that was one of those moves you think you would have done again if you had the chance. No readdress either. Tell us about that.
Just one of those moves. I already made it obvious where I was going, and I just got turned into once again. It happened on like lap 3 and about lap 8 as well, so, you know, no readdressing a racing incident.
Yeah, rest of your race though up front, it was definitely on for young and old, and especially between those two up front, you were able to watch them and focus on what you were going to do, and it ended up with you and Rogers coming together, and just one of those things that you guys will most probably have to have a word about after this one.
I think he just needs to look back at the replay and look at the amount of times that he turned in and actually made contact with the front of my car throughout the whole race. So, you know, once he does that, he'll make it obvious that I was going to throw a move up there anyway, because he was already going to be nice and slow for the apex. And, you know, I was half on the curb, so didn't really have anywhere to go after I already committed to making a move. But other than that, it was a great race. The cold weather played havoc with the tyres. My tyres felt like they were turning on and off every bloody lap, so that made it a bit difficult to keep up, but it was good to see a 4-car battle for the lead pretty much all the race.
Yeah, it was good, especially with the longer race, but next week we move to Road Atlanta for another 40-lap race. That track sort of has some similar characteristics to Mid-Ohio with the bumps, especially coming up through that S complex, and it's going to be one of those things. The draft down that back straight is going to play a major part in how the results end up of that one.
Yeah, certainly it's going to keep some of these flamingos in play, since Muppets is trademarked apparently, but you know, it's going to be a nice battle next week in Road Atlanta, and I can't remember how many laps you said it was. It's going to be an insanely long race, but you know, it's one of those places that it's definitely going to be good racing, whether it's hot or cold, and you know, we might see someone else in victory lane, which would be quite nice.
Yeah, anyone you'd like to thank for you? Congratulations on second before we let you go.
You guys for doing the broadcast, Johnny for jumping in and broadcast and commentating with you. GTI Springs absolutely worked wonders for us this week at Mid-Ohio with different... we've got the complete set now, so we've got the clutch, throttle and brake, and it does make a difference on the G27. And Maverick Welding for, giving us panels that we can take off.
All good, Foddy. Congratulations. And we'll move to you, Johnny. Would you like to take this one with Ethan Griggold, our winner for today?
Yeah, certainly. As Ethan Griggold was possibly one of the most well-balanced V8 supercars you'll see in history, comes home in P1. Talk about your composure here, Ethan, because in terms of pressure in that race, you had no less than 1,000,000 miles an hour behind you with 3 cars fighting for the lead and you keeping that lead. It was incredibly close. I don't know how you kept your cool. It must have been very hard.
Yeah, it was an incredibly high-pressure race. Seeing Rogers in my mirror the entire time is not the most ideal circumstances to be under, but I pretty much what I do is I shut out what's happening behind me and only see if he's taking a dive or he's got a run on me and all that sort of thing, and I just focus on my own driving. It was funny though, halfway through the race my Facebook actually started going off like crazy, and that actually distracted me for a little bit, but at stopping I managed to just keep focusing.
Hey, probably just your fans supporting you on a scintillating win. You look at other racetracks throughout the season with the car being so well balanced. You look a real good shot at those tracks with bumps and undulation. Do you think you can keep it together for those rounds, or do you think it was more driving style today that suited you and instead of the setup, or maybe a little bit of both?
Well, not really. I only did tonight's race under a whim, actually, so I only got about 25 minutes practicing before the race, and I wasn't too comfortable in that practice session that was 47 degrees, and I felt like the car felt like absolute crap and just it didn't do what I want. And then I jump in the race over 25 degrees, and it's that much bloody quicker than the session I was just in, so... I don't actually really like this track that much, but I found that the way you get speed is you just keep the car straight, no oversteer, accelerate when you can.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's just, well, I'm glad it worked and I come out with a win tonight, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, any thank yous as well? Race winner, surely a lot of people to thank.
Oh, I'll just thank the boys at STC for making a set that I just grabbed a couple of hours ago, so it seemed to work for me, and yeah, pretty awesome.
There you go, Jake. Ethan Griggold, who won this race, first win of the season too, and it just seemed today he did all his talking on the racetrack, and he's well-deserved.
Yeah, it just goes to show... All good, Ethan. It just goes to show 4-time champion Ethan Griggold is, and he's just done it again. He's come in, missed round 1 at Monza, and he's come into round 2 and just fired a warning shot to everyone. He is still here, and he is going to be one of those hot people to catch. So I think that will wrap us up for today, Johnny, and would like to thank everyone for coming out. Next week we are here at Road Atlanta for round 3 of the official V8 Supercar Championship. 4 laps there. Thanks to the director Hugo Louise and my commentator alongside me, Johnny Simon. I'm Jake Blackall, and we hope to see you next week. Goodbye.